皆さん、こんにちは。僕はミスタースーです。今日のビデオはダイスの戦略です。一緒に始めましょうよ。Hello class, so in this video, we're going to go over a bit of doing algebra stuff. So here's just some strategies so you can apply when you work with them. So the first thing that you need to understand is the difference between terms and factors. So terms are simply numbers or variables that are related by addition or subtraction. And factors are the same thing but with multiplication or division. So just looking at some examples of that, these, so in x squared minus 1, x squared and negative 1 are considered terms of each other because the way that they're related is simply through addition, or in this case you can kind of think about subtraction, but you know, same thing. And x squared minus x, that could be factored into x times x minus 1, so that means x and x minus 1 are factors. So yes, this x minus 1 does have addition in it, or subtraction, same thing, but in this case what we're looking at is x and x minus 1. The way that those two are related is by multiplication. And basically, the whole thing about canceling, you're going to need to be able to, well, get things into factors in order to cancel them, because canceling is just dividing. And you can't exactly divide something that's added or subtracted. You need something multiplied to divide, since those are inverses. Alright, so we're going to analyze this thing real fast, just so that I can get a quick thing out of the way. So if you were to multiply this out, you get x squared plus b times x plus ax plus ab. So if you do that, you can also combine it to get this. When you factor out that little common factor of x plus ab. So most of you are familiar with this. That if you get some sort of a thing, so let's just use this example right here. If you get something like that and you need to factor it, you usually make an x or something and do this, and then you ask what two numbers multiply to get 9 and add to get minus 6. Well, let's see. Negative 3 and negative 3 do the trick. So that means what we get is x minus 3 times x minus 3, or in other words, just x minus 3 squared. So the question is, why does this work? Well, if we look at this little framework here, we see that the factored form of this thing is simply x plus something times x plus something else. And what are those somethings? They are whatever multiplies to get the second or the last thing, and whatever adds to get the coefficient of the x factor. And that's it. So let's apply that to factor this. So this we can look at like this, x squared plus, let's just say 0 times x minus 9. So basically what multiplies to negative 9 and adds to 0? Well, to get negative 9, you need pretty much either 1 and 9 or 3 and 3. So do 1 and 9, can they in any way make 0? No. But 3 and 3, yeah. Positive 3 and minus 3, if we do that, then we get 0 if we add them. If we multiply, we get negative 9. So, quick little other side note, that means x plus a times, that's supposed to be an x, sorry, x minus a, that's the same thing as x squared minus a squared. So basically first times second, first plus second times first minus second equals first squared minus second squared. Think of it that way. Alright, dividing out factors. So let's just simplify this. Well, if we look at this, we already have everything in what's called factored form. In other words, everything is multiplied by each other. So we can easily see what divides out. So what divides out? Y minus 2. That divides out. Therefore, what we're left with is x divided by y plus 7. Can we do anything more than that? Nope. Alright, moving on. Let's look at this. So these are literally the things we just worked with up there, but with y's instead of x's. So let's see, we got, this is going to be y plus 3 times y minus 3, all divided by y minus 3 quantity squared. So what can divide out? We have a factor of y minus 3 in the numerator, and we have two factors of y minus 3 in the denominator, so we can divide one of those out each, and what we have left is y plus 3 divided by y minus 3, and that's it. We can't cancel anything else out. So it might be tempting to try to do this. So do not do that, for that is called wrong. Because you're trying to divide out terms. You're not dividing any factors. And remember, terms are addition and subtraction related things. You can't do multiplication and division on those things to get rid of them. You need to do addition or subtraction on those things to get rid of them. Alright, so now let's try working with multiple quantities. Okay, so after we get over the fact that this looks crazy, we can work with it. So we have a fraction divided by a fraction. That's not difficult to deal with, right? So if we think about it as, okay, we got one fraction, and we got another fraction, all we really need to do is think, okay, well, we keep the numerator the same, and then we multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator. That's just how we've dealt with them ever since elementary school. And whether or not that was taught well, doesn't matter, basically just learn it here, if it wasn't. So let's try to factor this. So, that can factor into x plus 1 times x minus 6. If you need to pause the video to try that yourself, of course, feel free to do that. And then x minus 6, that's already whatever it should be. And then this thing can factor into x plus 1 quantity squared. Alright, so what can divide out? Well, we have a factor of x minus 6, and we also have a factor of x plus 1. So then we can easily just get x over x plus 1, and then that is it. Again, you cannot just divide out those x's, because in the denominator, that is related through addition. In the numerator, that's the only thing there. But still, they're considered terms relating to each other still, so no. Alright, so let's look at this. Well, if we look at this, essentially, we know that it's going to factor somehow. Let's just first look at that as fraction over fraction, and then we'll deal with it from there. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Need more space. X squared minus 6xy plus 8y squared all over x squared minus 7xy plus 12y squared times the reciprocal of the denominator, which is just x minus 3y. Alright, so let's factor things. So let's see, what can this factor into? Well, we know that we're going to have something with x in the front, and then something with a y. The reason that we know that is we have a y squared, we have an x squared. That has to somehow multiply to get x squared and y squared. So same exact thing in the denominator. We're going to have to somehow get that to happen. So let's see. Well, what multiplies to get 8, and what adds to get negative 6? Well, let's see. Negative 2 and negative 4 work. And then down here, let's see. You get negative 7 by adding, and to get 12 by multiplication, we can do negative 3 and negative 4. So if you want to check, you can pause the video, check this yourself. It works out. Alright, so anyway, we see we have those factors. That divides out. That also divides out. And then all we're actually left with is x minus 2y. So we went from this crazy thing up here to that, just by applying basic algebra rules. Alright, and I believe this is the last one. So let's think about how to do this. So reminder that the difference of two squares can be factored into x plus y times x minus y. You might be thinking, where am I reminding you from? Either from your previous classes, where you probably have learned this, or just go back in the video. I actually talked about this, except without x and y, it was x and a. Just go back up. Anyway, so let's go with this. We know that this is going to factor into x plus y times x minus y. So that means all we have to do here is multiply by x minus y. So y over x plus y times, I'm going to make that plus not look like a t, x minus y over x minus y, all divided by 1 over x minus y. Alright. So if we do that, then let's just clean that up before dealing with it. And notice I'm still leaving this in factored form. The reason is because it's possibly going to cancel things out. You won't necessarily know by just looking at it. You'll only know by trying. Unless you have really, really good algebra intuition. But anyway. Let's see. If we do that, then we'll end up with... I'm just skipping the combining, and then combining that also with the reciprocal thing. Alright, so we see we have a factor of x minus y here and here. That can divide out. And let's see, even if we distribute this, are we going to have any factors? No, we're not, because we're not going to be able to get just an x plus y from this in any way, shape, or form. So what we have then is that. And that is it. So basically with algebra, just try to look at what basic rules can you apply. So if you look throughout all of this, what I've done is just apply the basic rules of, well, let's see, factoring. I literally factored in all of these. And also, you need to essentially apply like things with fractions. Like, you know, fraction over fraction, that's going to be numerator divided by the reciprocal of the denominator. Always think about that. And also, if you are to get a common denominator like this, so if you have adding fractions somewhere, make sure that you common denominator and combine them first before just flipping the denominator. Otherwise, you're going to get weird things. You technically could go out of order, but I would always suggest clean this top part up. Or if this bottom part had that, then clean that up first before doing that whole reciprocal thing. ご覧いただきありがとうございました。楽しんでいただければいいねして、コメントをして、購読してください。次のビデオに会いましょうよ。